But yeah, now we're gonna go on to the Bad Batch.
Yes.
We'll talk about the first two episodes. So spoiler alert for the first two episodes of the Bad Batch. Man, that first episode of Bad Batch was so good. It was so good. They keep showing us Order 66.
And it doesn't get easier to watch. Every new perspective I see, my heart just breaks all over again. I'm like, no. Like, I'm never going to get tired of watching Order 66, but it's never going to be easier.
Yeah.
It's never going to be easier for me to watch. Like, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, and this time they showed Kanan back when he was Caleb. And his master died and he ran away.
And a lot of people have been getting upset because it retcons the Kanan comics. Like I'm not upset because one, the retcon is small.
Also, I've said this before. I don't think anything is canon until you see it on a screen.
Oh, I disagree with that. Especially now that Disney has taken over.
There are several things that happen in canon books that they change once it goes to live action. It's happened.
That has only happened in Disney.
So for me, it's like it's not canon until it's on the screen.
That's only happened in Disney one time before, which was with Clone Wars season 7 with the Ahsoka novel. That's the only other time that's happened. So I can understand. Like I've seen the argument of people who are like, "Oh, Disney. The whole purpose of Disney erasing Legends was so that it would they could make a more cohesive narrative, and now this isn't canon." I understand that argument, but at the same time, and like I definitely like the stuff we see in the books and in the comics stuff, that's definitely still canon because we see it referenced in the video games and the shows and the movies and stuff like that. But like it's literally like the very first issue of the Kanan comic, and the Kanan comic ran for like 12 issues. It's like the very first issue. Everything afterwards can still happen. The Kanan novel can still happen. And like the basics of the first episode where Depa Billaba and Kanan are working with clone troopers, and then they turn on Depa Billaba after Order 66 and they try to go after Kanan. And then Kanan, that's the basics of what happens in the first issue. And like the same thing happens just differently. But it's basically the same thing. Like there's nothing. Yeah, no, that like they kept the planet the same. They kept like that. People getting upset over that. I understand why, but it's really not that big a deal.
Yeah. And his voice was weird.
That threw me off.
No.
That threw me off because you could tell Freddie Prinze is trying to do like a younger voice, but it doesn't work.
They could have edited his voice just a little bit and made it a little more childlike. He just sounded like a grown man voicing a child. He did not sound.
That's what he was. He sounded like what he was.
Yeah, exactly. He sounded exactly like what he was. He also looked so much whiter than he does.
I think that might have something to do with like working on Lethal versus like his nose. By the time he gets older, even in the comics and the books, he works on a lot more like sun-heavy planets.
But his nose is also different, and that's also weird.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I didn't notice his nose.
His nose is more hooked in Rebels than it is in Bad Batch, and that's not even a thing that is like a style change because styles are different. The way the nose is shaped could have still been the same, but it's different, and I'm like, that's a weird choice. Yeah, he just didn't look like for me. It's just like that sun whatever thing. It's just like you should still make the younger version of the character resemble the older version of the character if you're gonna do it. Mm-hmm. You like it's weird that they made him look completely different. That like if you didn't hear Freddie Prinze's voice, if his master wasn't his master in the comics, that could be any random Padawan. That didn't like in terms of looks, that didn't look like him. You'd think they would have made it look like him at the very least, but I wouldn't even say barely. It didn't look like him at all. Like you wouldn't know it was him if it didn't have his voice.
Again, I can't really say that I noticed a difference, but I wasn't really paying attention to it. I wasn't looking for one.
You're lying. He doesn't look anything like he does in Rebels.
Well, I mean, my whole thing is it goes down to animation choices in my eyes because even
And
season 7 and like the Bad Batch look way different than like character design, everything from season 1 of the Clone Wars, and so like changing animation styles
but the
completely.
difference isn't as great as the one I'm talking about. Like the difference between Ahsoka at the beginning in the movie and Ahsoka in season 7 isn't as drastic as Kanan as a kid.
But that's what I'm saying though, is like they're two different animation styles, like two different art styles, two different animation styles. They're gonna look a little different.
The same directors, a lot of the same people working on it. They aren't.
But it's completely different art styles. That's what I'm saying. That's why Ahsoka looks
because
way different.
Ahsoka still translated from one art style to the other.
So, look at Vader. Look at Vader, for example.
Vader also still translated from one art style to the other. There are ways to like there's no justifying this for professionals to translate a character's design to him being younger and having them look completely different. It's like, bro, then your audience isn't connecting that is him, other than the fact that we hear this deep dude's voice playing this little kid. If you're going
to disagree heavily.
To look younger, it has to resemble the older version. It can't look completely different.
I don't think it looks that different.
Maybe that's just horrible design.
I don't think it looked that different to me. I don't think it looked that different to me. But I've not been looking for the differences. But I don't think it looked that different.
But yeah, rest of the episode.
Omega. The rest of the episode was fire.
Omega is a clone. I knew it. She's a clone. You thought she wasn't. Of course she was a clone. She looks.
No, I said I don't know if she's a clone or not. I didn't say whether or not I thought she was. I don't know if she's a clone or not. But everyone's assuming she's a clone. So she is a clone. I'm not knocking that. I just didn't know whether or not she was, and I was serious because I didn't know because they hadn't said anything about it. A lot of people have been pointing out that she looks like Jango's sister from the comics, which would be a very interesting twist if they canonize Jango's sister.
I mean, technically,
I'd be happy.
Technically, she would be his sister because, well, wait, no, she would be Boba's sister, technically.
Yeah, she would be Boba's sister.
She'd be Jango's daughter, but like...
Yo, I wonder if Boba's going to show up in this.
Because the first time I saw her, I was like, she looks like the way young Boba does in the Clone Wars, except with lighter skin and lighter hair. Some people were thinking that she might have the Force or something.
That'd be a little dumb.
Because of just little things that she's done that have seemed strange.
That'd be a little.
It's either the Force or something. It's both of them technically would still lead towards being the Force, but the other one is that she can connect to the clones and like kind of use their abilities or something like that. And I feel like there was an easy way to also just make that connect to the Force.
That'd be a little.
I feel like it's hard to give anybody in the Star Wars universe any type of power that isn't physical without it being connected to the Force. Because the Bad Batch,
I'm already thinking with ways.
All of their abilities, no, there isn't, because all of the Bad Batch's abilities are like directly tied to their physical, like what they can physically do.
They keep saying that Omega.
Hunter has heightened senses. Tech has heightened intelligence. Wrecker has heightened strength. What's the dude with the sniper? I can't remember. Crosshairs, is good at shooting, and Echo is a cyborg. Echo, everything she's been shown to do has been very mental. And honestly, I also think it would be weird for something that's more abstract in this Star Wars universe to all of a sudden not be connected to the Force, because it's like, okay, why are you adding a new power system unrelated to the Force unnecessarily? But also, I kind of don't want her to have the Force because I feel like every new kid in Star Wars ends up just having the Force. Every time there's a new main character, they end up having the Force, and I'm like, okay, they don't need to have. Not everybody needs to have the Force to be a cool character.
I don't think it's the Force. I don't think it's the Force, because if they were able to make Force sensitive clones, then the whole thing with Grogu in The Mandalorian wouldn't really be a thing.
I mean,
and then even going back to Legends.
I think that it's very clear that if she is Force sensitive, she's their only successful Force sensitive clone, and literally right after she was made, Grand Moff Tarkin literally came to shut it down. So like it's like they can't even get a chance to make more after they have succeeded.
But then that brings me back to why, like, how is that all lost in less than 50 years? Like that information, that knowledge and stuff, that should all really be,
I mean, she could
that
die.
shouldn't be hard, especially for Moff Gideon to find. That shouldn't be hard for Moff Gideon to find.
I mean, she could die or just hide.
But I mean, like the Kaminoans keep that research. Like, it's not just like,
It could get destroyed. You know, anything could happen.
I highly doubt that. That's like very, 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 what's what I'm looking for? Like in court, that's, I promise I'm not high. I'm just like a little slow today. What's what I'm looking for? That's it feels like very circumstantial. It feels really circumstantial.
I mean,
To me personally, what I think is that's just, she was an experiment. I don't think she's force sensitive. I just think that all the like abilities is just like, because what they keep saying, what the Kaminoans kept saying was she was birthed for a purpose. She was like she was specialized for a reason. And so I think that just might have been like genetic tampering with them. I'd be really hard pressed to say she has force power, but she might. Just like she might have been a clone, she just might have force powers, but I don't see it.
Yeah. I don't really have much else to say. Only 2 episodes in. Things are starting off interesting. I'm excited to see Rex again. He was in the trailer, so we know we're gonna see Rex. And he was mentioned in the 2nd episode by Cut. He was there like the day before the Bad Batch got there. So they're definitely gonna run into Rex eventually.
Very soon. If he's not in the 3rd episode, he's probably gonna be in the 4th.
Yeah, that Echo figure looks really good.
I'm so mad. I want
the Hot Toys Echo figure. And whenever they make figures made based off of Clone Wars, they always make them look like realistic at best, as if they were in a movie. So it's the actor's face, but he's far thinner, just like Echo is in the show. And it looks really cool. Echo's helmet is easily my favorite of all of the Bad Batch's helmets.
It's my 2nd favorite. My favorite is Crosshair's, but it's my 2nd favorite.
Crosshair's newest helmet is probably my 2nd favorite.
Any Crosshair helmet looks awesome with like the little target on the. I'm like, yeah.
The thing that makes me most excited about the Bad Batch is that it brings us ever closer to getting something that I've talked about wanting for so long. And that's a show that focuses on like not clones, but stormtroopers specifically. And some people are saying that Crosshairs could be the predecessor to the Death Troopers, and that he could potentially, I'll say F, but I feel like he probably 100% is going to die eventually in this show. But I feel like he definitely has death flags written all over him. But if he doesn't, I feel like he could potentially, there were still some clones in the stormtrooper ranks. What if he was a death trooper within like the Empire at some point, and he was like one of the first death trooper. He was the first death trooper, and he like led a death trooper squad. It would be cool to get a show that's just about like death troopers. I want a show that's about death troopers. I really do. I want to show
that he's. I hope he doesn't die. I really hope he doesn't die. Like, I hope they redeem him in the end.
I feel like they're definitely setting it up for that.
I hope he doesn't die. I've been hearing theories that the entire Bad Batch are slowly, like their inhibitor chips are slowly going to take over. I really hope that doesn't happen.
Well, I feel like they're definitely going to remove them.
That's what I'm like, now you know they exist.
Yeah.
It would make no sense for you to keep them.
I was gonna say, Hunter just didn't know that they existed, but now that he does, he's probably going to be like, Tech, get these chips out of our heads because we don't know what could happen.
Right.
Like, they're not going to keep those in their head. If they do, in my opinion, that would be a bit of lazy writing, because I don't think that they would keep those chips in their heads once they learn that they're in.
It just doesn't make sense for them to do. Like,
yeah, but yeah, I want to see more shows that are about these clone troopers. I mean, stormtroopers. We've seen clone troopers all the time. Stormtroopers, specifically death troopers.
You should read Tag and Bink. If you haven't read Tag and Bink, you should read Tag and Bink.
Those robots that they fought in the training arena. Because when they first showed up, I was like, what is this? Are these dark troopers? What happened? Why are these dark trooper looking robots that we've never seen before coming out?
That reminds me, in Rebels, everyone's like, the dark troopers in the Mandalorian are the first time we see like live action dark troopers on screen. I don't think so, because in Rebels, in season 3, we see Thrawn literally like fist to fist with like two Death Troopers, or not Death, two Dark Troopers, and I'm like pretty sure that's the first time we've seen him on screen. You finished Rebels, right?
No.
No, never mind. Never mind. I'm sitting here like, oh yeah, Deshaun can back me up. He knows what I'm talking about.
I don't know.
No, he hasn't even. Bro.
So